Hi everyone, Christina here. Over the years, I have amassed a very large amount of watercolor paper, watercolor sets, watercolor supplies, brushes, you name it. I have been collecting it and adding it to my stash for years. So I have a really large collection and I get a lot of questions about what I would recommend to each one of you. So I thought in today's video, I would briefly go into what I would recommend. Now, I'm going to give you a lot of options today. Any one person, unless they're crazy like me, does not need every single one of these, but I will give you the pros and cons of each and why I've chosen them for this recommendation video. So I'm going to start off with paper because paper is something that no matter what watercolor medium you're using, paper is really going to make or break your project, because if you use high quality paints on a low quality paper, it's not going to look its best. However, you could use a high quality paper with maybe a really inexpensive kind of low quality watercolor set, and you'll probably still have some pretty good results. So I'm going to start with paper. I've got basically, I guess, like 3 recommendations for you, plus a specialty paper that you'll need for one of the mediums I'm going to show you, which if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you probably know what that paper is. Okay, so first of all, Arteza cold press watercolor paper is kind of a catch-all. It does great for a lot of different techniques, a lot of different projects. Arteza cold press is really great, as well as the hot press version. However, I've got right here for you 2 versions of Fabriano Artistico. I've got cold pressed and hot pressed. I recommend maybe for a hot press option to get this smaller 5x7 block, just because I personally don't use hot press as often. So to pay for a big pad like this might not be as useful. So you might want to get something a little bit smaller for your hot press option. And I mostly only use hot press watercolor paper when I'm doing very fine detailed watercoloring where I really need to have a smooth surface. So both of these are great. I use these papers in particular when I'm going to have maybe I'm painting something that's going on top of white cardstock, and so I want my watercolor paper to match the white cardstock as much as possible. That's when I use this extra white Artistico from Fabriano, or if I just feel like it, but that's mainly the reason why I use the extra white. Otherwise, I love the texture of Arteza. The other paper I really recommend you have on hand, especially if you're going to try watercolor markers or brush pens, is Strathmore Bristol. If you've ever used like the Arteza brush pens or the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers, I'm going to talk about both of those in a minute here. You know, sometimes they don't react well on top of traditional watercolor paper. Try it on Bristol, because Bristol is smooth. It's great if you're going to stamp an image and then color it, or if you're just looking for a really, really detailed painting. Bristol is amazing, and make sure it's the smooth surface, not vellum. I haven't tried the vellum Bristol, but I've heard that it does not react the same with the markers. So look for a Bristol smooth surface, and this is Strathmore. I've also bought some, I think it's Canson XL. They have a Bristol version. I haven't tried it out yet, but I have bought it, so I'm hoping to use that in a video soon. So those are my paper recommendations. Speaking of watercolor markers, got 2 options for you. This first set, both are 48 colors actually. I think that's kind of funny that I have the same amount of each marker, different colors obviously. These are the Arteza brush pens, real brush pens. I find that these are really, really great. I don't have any complaints with them, especially when I use them on Bristol paper. It works great. The color selection's great. I have no complaints. I really, really love those. They are not light fast, so they will fade in direct sunlight. So whatever you use them on, make sure it's not something that needs to be archival. Same goes for the Zig Clean Color. They're also not light fast. There's a wider selection of both of these, but I only have 48 of each. So if you are like a full set syndrome person, you need the full set of something, you're probably going to want to get the larger marker sets. But 48 seems to be great for me, especially because I tend to use kind of the same colors over and over again. So I think really I probably only have about 24 of each that I use all the time. But these are the Zig Clean Color Real Brush Markers. One of the reasons, well, there's a couple of pros and cons to both. The Zigs are, in general, more expensive than the Arteza. However, with the Zigs, if you run out of one color, you can buy just that one color and replace it. Whereas the Arteza, as far as I can tell, they do not sell them in individual colors. I looked on the Arteza website today and they don't sell them there. I don't know if there are other shops who maybe sell the Arteza brushes and they've broken the sets apart and sell them individually. I have no idea. But as far as I can tell, you have to buy the entire set. That being said, I haven't run out of any of these colors. I don't use them exclusively enough to really give you like a good estimate on how long they'll last. But I've had these for a long time and I haven't had any drying out issues. With the Zigs, every once in a while I'll come across one that's a little more dry than the others, but I just put a tiny bit of water right on the brush tip and it kind of like soaks up some of that ink and it gets things going again. So I haven't had to replace any of these either. So, I mean, that being said, maybe the replacing issue won't be a problem. By the way, I store these in these little fabric cuffed little containers. I got them from the Container Store. I'll link those down below in the video description as well if you're wondering. And this one, since the Zigs are shorter, I just fold down that cuff a little bit more so that they don't like get completely lost when it's all folded up like this. All right, and now we're on to the watercolor sets. Now, like I showed you guys in the intro, I have a lot more watercolor sets to choose from here. I'm just going to give you the ones that I really recommend, the ones that I turn to a lot, most often, and I'm going to talk about them a little bit. The first set should be no surprise. This is the 36 set of watercolors from Mijelo. This is the Mission Gold set that comes with the palette, and it comes with all the individual tubes. I don't think I've ever had to refill any of these except for this one right here, which is Bright Opera. I think I refilled that once, and that's because I love that bright color, and I just tend to use a ton of it. So that's the only one that I've had to replace. The rest of them, I've held up really, really well. I know a lot of people who use their watercolor sets a ton and have never run out of the color. So I also have another palette with these exact same colors in it. Because I wanted a larger palette. I wanted the wells to be a little bigger, wanted more mixing space. And so I did buy some larger tubes. I'll link those down as well, down below. So I have another palette that I tend to use a little bit more now these days. But this is the original set that I fell in love with when it comes to Mijello Mission Gold watercolor sets. These paints, they react it with water so well. You don't even have to spray the palette to get it going. You can just go in with a damp brush and pick up that color right away. They're creamy, they're pigmented, bright colors. I have no complaints with these watercolors. They're so easy to use. It's a lot about personal preference. I know a lot of people love Daniel Smith watercolors. They're not my favorite. Maybe because these are my first love, this is the one that I gravitate to, but I prefer these over the Daniel Smith. I know some of you might think that's blasphemous to say something of the sort because Daniel Smith is a well-loved watercolor line, but I really enjoy the Mijello Mission Gold. The color selection is fantastic and I don't have any complaints. This is also a well-loved watercolor set in my craft room. I cleaned off the palette so it's a little hard to tell, but this is, I think this is what, like a 24 set? A 24 set from Sakura. This is the Sakura Koi, let's see, it says it on the front, Pocket Field Sketch Box. And I really love this set. It's very inexpensive, especially if you find it on Amazon or a craft store where you can use a coupon or something like that. These watercolors are really, really great. It's a great beginner set and it has an awesome color selection as well. I really recommend this one. It does come with a water brush and these little sponge areas where you can clean off your brush or things like that. I don't really use those. I just use this area right here. And I like that you can take this and put that off to the side and you have a lot of mixing area. So this is a really great palette. I highly recommend it. There's also one that has, I think, 48 colors. It's a little bigger. There's a lot of colors in there. I recommend that one as well, but this original set with 24 is my favorite. This is a recent love, new recent find. This is from American Crafts with their paper fashion sets. I really love the color palette on this one. This is also a pretty inexpensive watercolor set. I don't think it's quite as inexpensive as the Sakura Koi, but this color palette's great. It's a smaller container, so it's great for travel. I really, really like this set. The colors are great. I've used this in quite a few videos recently, and I'm frankly really surprised how much I love it, because I really went into it with low expectations, but it really surprised me. I really love it. The color mixing is great. Lots of good options. This is one set that I also recommend. I've got two more for you. This last one, well, one's a special one. This set from Amy Tangerine on American Crafts. I really love this set, especially for travel. It has this water container right here so that you can fill it with water, and then it has a kind of a needle point so you could squeeze the water into your water brush. I really like that aspect. There's this sponge to clean up your brushes or whatever. There's a waterproof pen up here. It's a black pen and also a pencil. It's just a really good all-around set. The paints I enjoy. They're not my absolute favorite, so I actually bought some empty half pounds that I'm going to take my Mijello Mission Gold paints and squeeze them into the half pounds and then replace these. So if you aren't a big fan of these watercolors, you can replace them with other ones, which is what I'm eventually going to do. But for the most part, these paints are actually really fantastic. It's a great kind of rainbow color selection, and I highly recommend this one as well. All right, the last but not least recommendation is the 6 gold set from Finetec. This is their pearlescent colors, and it's got 6 colors. Now, I've used the sets with the more colors in them. Like, I think there's one that's 24 right now that I've been in love with. But you know what? This is the set, if I have to recommend any of them, this would be the one, because I use the gold and these metallic shades the most. In my other Finetec sets that have even more colors, the gold color is the one that I'm running out of the fastest, because that's what I'm using it for the most. So Olympic gold, Arabic gold, this bronze is really pretty too. All of these colors are fantastic. They're just creamy and like so shiny when you get them on your project. Highly, highly recommend Finetec. And if you want even more color, check out their like 12 sets and the 24 set. I'll link to those down below as well if you're interested. But this is the set that I think most people need for their crafting or watercoloring, mainly because of the golds. Last but not least, I want to talk about brushes, and I'm going to start with this set of brushes right here. This is the Zen line of brushes from Royal and Langnickel. And I really enjoy these. They're a really high quality. I think they're a synthetic brush, wide range of sizes, some really good like flat washes and some really big ones. And the best part is they're very reasonably priced. They're fantastic. So I love to use these a lot. I recommend them a lot. The only thing that's kind of missing is they don't have a really super tiny brush. The smallest size that they have that I believe is a 2 round. That's the smallest size they have in this line. But for most everyday general painting, you probably won't need something smaller than a 2. I love the look of these. They're really classy looking. I really love them. So the other set that's still fairly reasonably priced in comparison to some other really high-end watercolor brushes is the Escoda Prado line. And these are synthetic, and they have a wide range of sizes. I even have some like really big ones. Let me grab them. Like this Big Mama, it's around 22. It's huge. I don't know when I'm ever going to need it, but great to have on hand, right? This is a great set of brushes. And like I said, just like with the Zen line, it doesn't have super, super tiny. It does have a 0. If you can see that, that's a 0 size. It's a super itty bitty brush. But I really like a 00 brush. This is this really itty bitty one. That tip is so tiny. I use this a lot for lettering because I like to have a little bit more control, and a smaller brush doesn't hold a lot of paint, so I feel like I have a little more control. This is an American Journey brush. This is a 00 round. It's nylon. And I really, really love these brushes. These were some of the first brushes, this line, that I purchased years ago when I got back into watercoloring. So I mostly just use that for lettering. So as far as brushes go, these are the 2 lines. In the past, I've used silver black velvet brushes a lot. They're fantastic. I don't find they have quite as much spring to them. They're a little more... They hold a lot of paint and they have a very fine tip, but since I started using these Zen that have quite a bit of bounce back and spring, you can see that, I find that I prefer that, especially on the smaller brushes. So it really just depends. If you are looking for new brushes, or if you are brand new to watercoloring, you might want to buy just one brush of a couple different types and kind of just see what you like, because it really is a lot of personal preference. These are just the ones that I prefer. All right, so those are my recommendations for watercolor supplies and sets. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have a watercolor set or supply that I have not mentioned today that you absolutely love, leave it in the comments. Tell us why you love it too. Don't just say I love this and leave it at that. Tell us why you like it. Because if people are looking for good watercolor sets, they're going to want to know why you recommend that one. Thanks so much for watching today. On screen, I've got a few more videos for you to check out. These are going to be watercolor videos where I have used any one of these supplies that I've shared with you today. I hope you check those out. Thank you so much for shopping through my links down below in the video description. That helps support my channel. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video again. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.